I'm Jim Brown, Chair of Vocal Studies at PLU, and we are so excited tonight to mix it up a little bit and have an all-musical theater masterclass with award-winning music director, conductor, educator, and keyboardist Zachary Dietz. Zachary's works on Broadway include Mrs. Doubtfire, Moulin Rouge, School of Rock, In the Heights, as you just heard, Beetlejuice, Wicked, The Lion King, Rock of Ages, and many more. He's also recognized for his work regionally, including the 10th anniversary of In the Heights at the Kennedy Center, Hands on a Hard Body, Clueless the Musical, again, the list goes on. He has served in residencies at NYU, Yale School of Drama, Cincinnati Conservatory, and Troy University's Danza in Arte a Pietrasanta. He is currently a faculty member at UC Irvine, and he is working on a children's musical, which I'm very interested in asking him about. So, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Zachary Dietz. Zachary, welcome.
Hi, thanks, Professor Brown. Hello, everyone.
Great to have you here. Yeah. So are you in California now?
I am. We are in Southern California between LA and San Diego.
Great, beautiful. I'm sure it was a sunny day there.
Every day is a sunny day.
Right. Unlike the Pacific Northwest, which you know something about, don't you? You've been in our area before.
Yeah, that's right. We were in Seattle with Mrs. Doubtfire at the Fifth Avenue a year ago, this past fall, doing the out-of-town tryout or production of the Broadway production show.
Right. Awesome. And you also you went to school at University of Oregon, isn't that right?
I did my master's degree at the University of Oregon, that's correct. But I started at CCM.
CCM at Cincinnati, which is where you know Soon Cho, and we're so delighted she could facilitate this class for us tonight. So tell me a little bit, and tell all of us a little bit about how you got your start. Tell us about your growing up and your musical activities as a young person, and then getting into musical theater. How did that happen, and how all this came to be?
Sure. The elevator pitch, her speech rather, is, I grew up as the only musical member of my family. I didn't have a musical, household of parents and siblings. I was sort of the only one. But I was a Suzuki kid when I was really little. So I was a Suzuki, trained by ear and group piano with my mom. And I had just sort of taken to it at a really early age and ended up finding a private teacher and studying mostly classical rep through my childhood and through high school, and ended up going to Cincinnati for undergrad and did a piano performance and music education double major. Oh. And while I was there, a bass player who was also a mus ed student with me, who came from theater land. She lived, breathed theater, and said, "Hey, you should go talk to them because they're looking for someone to help out with such and such." And that was really the beginning of my dive into musical theater. And I went over and talked to the faculty at CCM in the theater department and sort of explained who I was and why I was sort of knocking on their door, but I like this and I kind of do these things, and did a little bit of auditioning for him and sort of job shadowing in some of the coaching classes really early on, and just immediately was taken with the personality of theater people, actors, musicians, technicians, directors, choreographers. Like, they just speak a different language than musicians speak. And I was used to sort of the musician lingo and vocabulary, and it was different, but it was also familiar. It felt like a very familiar situation that I was in. And I loved at the outset that it was so creative, right? Putting on a musical takes a small army of people, each one with a really specific job, and they all have to come together. It has to be in the right moment. But of course, it's also live. So things happen. And just the idea of that as a sort of a performance experience was something that I had never gotten because, as a piano major, you're in a practice room practicing, or maybe you're giving a concert, or you're in a rep class with other studio students. But that was pretty much it. And so this was a much welcome way to make music that I had not really had before. And so I dove in, and that was sort of my entry, I guess you could say, into musical theater um, as a genre, as a discipline.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And so you mentioned Suzuki as a young person, and that trained your ears in such a strong way. Can you relate that to your role as a music director in musical theater, and how you have to flesh out these scores, these show scores that are often sometimes very bare bones, aren't they? Or they get sort of filled in as you go, or
Absolutely, and especially now with technology playing so much of a role with composers or writers that perhaps don't come from a theory background, right? But their world is working in a computer with DAWs and soft synths, and so when they write musical material, it often comes in the form of an audio file or an MP3. So you then have to go one step further, which is to say you have to sort of translate all of that into a score before you even get into the sort of the orchestration pieces of things. But yeah, certainly my ear was incredibly and still is incredibly helpful to me. And it's also just fun because I hear things in the radio, or we can,
yeah.
pick things out. It's easier to transpose
Oh yeah, right.
sight, or just to be able to just move a little more freely than to be confined by just the notes on the page, or just what I'm seeing with my eyes.
Right, right. Now, how did you bridge your school life from CCM, and then all of these the other, your Oregon, your master's in Oregon? How did all that then happen, where you were bridging into the professional world and getting into professional productions?
Sure. I moved to New York. I taught for a couple of years as an adjunct, actually, at CCM after
Oh,
graduation, and in the theater department.
right.
And after that, I just, it was a lot of work for little dollars, and it was my only job. And I had different side hustles and was moonlighting as a barista to get my health insurance, and
Right,
it was
right.
just a lot of balls in the air. And the same friend who introduced me to the theater department said, "I'm going to New York. Just come. Let's see what happens." And so we moved with no jobs. We had some money saved up because that was sort of recommended to us to have a little bit of an egg that you can live off of while you're trying to get into the. But I essentially moved up with no prospects and a lot of friends who were up there, and didn't know really how to do it or what to do, but just started going around stage doors after the shows came down at night, looking for these conductors by name. And that wasn't very successful because they either found out that somebody was there looking for them they didn't know, and they sort of
Right.
ducked out, or they just weren't. I missed them. It wasn't a very fruitful experiment, but I didn't say no to any opportunities. I think was the biggest thing that I learned in all of that. Whether it was a free gig or a little paying gig, or and everything in between. It just being able to sort of make music and meet people um, allowed me to then sort of connect my networking tentacles in other areas. And people think that show business in New York is a huge thing, and it might feel like that, but certainly you're talking about Broadway theater. It is a small network. The people, the musicians particularly, who are working
Mm.
at a consistent level or a consistent basis on Broadway shows is even smaller. And so, um, I think that I had the chops, and I had the pleasantries and the sort of let's get messy attitude that again just made friends and made connections to people, and then through that got other work in other areas, like playing for casting agencies who were then who were the folks who were hiring actors for these Broadway shows, or for
Right.
for these tours, or for these regional productions. And that was big too, because their influence on the scene was much far reaching than just the Broadway shows. And so that was great. And I met a lot more people that way. And I also started subbing, which is a great way for musicians, especially, to get to get their feet wet, is to go be fearless and knock on people's doors, or the digital version of that nowadays.
Yeah, yeah, right.
And be persistent and be pushy, because you have to be. I think you have to be assertive, and you have to be willing to put yourself out there. And so subbing is a great way to also, again, be people who are doing what you want to do or what you want to be doing. And that was a great way to also, again, just meet some other people doing perhaps not MD level work, but we're also working in the trenches, right? And meeting those people, and then, those bonds that you have, those relationships mean everything, because I never got a job on my resume in terms of like Broadway performance gigs. Was never hired off of a resume.
That's what you do, right?
And who and who recommended you. So it was those networking and those friendships and bonds that I made over those initial years really paid off in spades, because once I was at a place where I was getting work in different ways and doing a little bit of teaching on the side, it was just a phone call or an email, such and such gave me your name, and here's what I have here's what I'm doing, and are you interested? Which seems really casual, but that's how it happens.
Yeah, right. Well, wow. So the same friend that got you in the theater department at CCM then encouraged you to go to New York.
She did. She sort of picked me up, and we moved up together.
That's great.
Yeah.
You owe that friend a debt of gratitude, right?
I do. She's still a dear friend. Yeah.
Right. That's great. Well, tell us, and we'll have some time at the end as well,
Sure.
and also some Q&A from our audience as well. So I don't want to take too much of your time before we get our singers going here, but tell us about your position at UC Irvine and what your activities look like there.
Yeah, absolutely. So the University of California at Irvine, which is one of the state California school systems, we have a drama department, right? As most do. And of undergraduate, there's also an entire graduate MFA program, and there's a PhD program. And I actually oversee one of the MFA programs at UCI, which is in music direction specifically. Wow. So you can get an MFA, a terminal degree in music directing from UC Irvine. It's one of the few, I should say. There are a couple that are out there in the United States, but I can think of three, maybe. It's just not something. I think it's a new discipline that we're seeing in higher education, and what's great about it is that it's a fledgling program, right? So we take a couple of students every other year, so the cohorts are very small, and what's also great is that because there are other MFA programs in directing, design, stage management, acting. And then there's an entire undergraduate drama cohort as well. The sort of the cross-pollination, right, in terms of shows, but also perhaps doing little workshops or one-offs or cabarets or writing new musical material. That sort of intersection of students is really great. And the MDs, because there are so few of us, really get to sort of stretch out and dip our toes into many different ponds.
Wow, that is fantastic. What a great program. It sounds really incredible, and what a plum position, especially using all of the great tools and skills you've acquired over the years. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And just briefly, how does the LA scene compare to New York? How are you adjusting?
That's a good question. I don't really know. I haven't been out and about because of the restrictions and just right. Being safe myself.
Sure.
So I don't really know. That's a good question. I'll have to get back to you. I've been to LA times over the years when I was back in New York for various things, and it's much more geared in film and television, certainly than musical theater. not to say that there isn't theater happening in LA. There's definitely theater happening in all around. But when the recording industry moved out of New York decades ago out to the West Coast and sort of joined forces with the film and TV industries, that's really a lot of the output coming out of LA right now. But I don't know. I haven't actually been around too much to have an opinion yet. It's warm and sunny.
Well, that's all you can hope for, you know.
Right.
At least you can be outside during this pandemic a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Good. Well, we're so delighted to have you with us tonight, and I know our singers are raring to go. So why don't we just plunge in? I'll turn my camera off, and I think Dr. Soon Cho is going to post our program in the chat. I encourage our audience to use the chat function to cheer on our performers, and also thank you so much, Soon. There's the program coming. And then the Q&A will be lighting up, I'm sure, as we go along too. And we'll have time for that Q&A at the end. But anyway, let's get started. I'm going to turn my camera off and welcome our first singer. I think I'm going to welcome our first singer. Samantha, are you there? Oh, good. There she is. Okay. Take it away, Samantha.
Hello. My name is Samantha Katz, and today I will be singing Much More from the musical The Fantastics. May I do a sound check really quick?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'd like to swim in a clear blue stream where the water is icy cold, then go to town in a golden gown and have my fortune told. Just once, just once, just once before I'm old, I'd like to be not evil, but a little worldly wise, to be the kind of girl designed to be kissed upon the eyes. I'd like to dance till 2 o'clock, or sometimes dance till dawn. Or if the band could stand it, just go on and on and on. Just once, before the chance is gone, I'd like to waste a week or two and never do a chore, to wear my hair unfastened so it be loose to the floor, to do the things I've dreamed about but never done before. Perhaps I'm bad or wild or mad with lots of grief in store, but I want much more than keeping house, much more, much more, much more.
Yeah, this is me clapping. Great job.
Thank you.
Great job. I'm gonna pin you so that it doesn't show my face when I'm talking, because I don't want to see my face when I'm talking. I want to see your face. Yeah, that's great. You have a beautiful voice, Samantha.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you can just leave your mic on if you want. We'll just chat. That was great. What year in school are you?
I'm a first year.
You're a first year. Excellent. Excellent. Great. So I have my first question for you is, did you pick this song, or was this song chosen for you?
I've been working on this song on and off throughout the years. I think ever since maybe 8th grade. I think my first voice teacher introduced this song to me, and I like just love it so much. I use it for things.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's great. That's great. You mentioned that you love it. Like that's such an important thing, right? That you love what you're singing. Like you love what you're singing. There are too many songs in the world to keep in your book that you don't absolutely love, right? So that's great because it also gives you the energy and the fire inside of you, right? Which is great. Like you already sort of come with that because of your affinity for the tune, right? And you have the Louisa. It fits you well, right? I could see you doing this, right? What's the backstory with this? How does this fit into the show? And sort of how are you? What is the setup here?
So this song is more towards the beginning of the show. It's a little bit into it. The plot has established that there are two neighbors and they're both fathers who have children, and their children are in love. Louisa's in love with the neighbor's son from next door, but she thinks that the two fathers hate each other, and so she wants to be with him, and she's convinced I'm in love, this is like my fairy tale moment, or just like my moment to go, I feel like doing all of this because I'm motivated by this boy that I like.
Sure.
That's kind of how I'm thinking.
Have you met this boy before?
Behind we've I've seen scenes where it's like they talk behind a wall, so they don't see each other. And so I'm thinking that maybe not entirely, but she knows that maybe she's seen him from a distance, and they've exchanged glances.
Okay. So now I'm going to twist on you and go, what is the take with Samantha? Right? If Louisa is Samantha in this situation, right? So now have you ever been in love before? Are you in love currently?
Ooh. I would say so. I think I'm only 19, but I think I have, yes. And I think that does make me feel good, feeling like, ooh, this guy is really cute or something like that. And also there's a lot of travel references, and I also really want to travel someday.
Okay, great. So the reason I ask is because you're absolutely right. So the song is they're in love. He's sort of next door, but there's this physical barrier between them, right? And so there's something about it is a love song, but it is an internal love song, right? It's an I want song, which is to say, these are the things that you want for yourself with this other person, right? With all of the lyrics that are describing that, right? Mm-hmm. So it's you explaining, you Samantha, or you Louisa, these are all the things that I want to do with this person, right? So it's a shared experience, right?
This person is the key to making all the dreams come true in my life.
Maybe, yeah. Or you've thought about this forever. Oh my gosh, when this happens to me, I'm going to do this. And oh my gosh, we could do this. And then maybe we'll do this. And then suddenly what happens is this guy comes along, right? In the show. But right, because we're taking this song out of the show, right, in context. So we still have to have a situation or an environment that we establish. So you could use the show, literally, right? But I think also having, the reason I asked you if you were in love or a bit in love is because you have, in terms of connecting to material, right? To know what that feels like, right? To have an emotional experience with something like love, right? From a parent, from a grandparent, from somebody else, right? Not your family, is a different kind of love, different color of love, right? And so in this song, all what she's doing is just essentially espousing, right? Oh my gosh, this could be it. And we could do this, and we could do this, and we can do this, right? So the first question I had, one other question I had for you is, what is the bell tone at the top? What is the inciting incident for you? What is that dramatic beat? Which is to say, when this music starts, what is that bell tone? What is that?
Like that she has an idea, or that something like channeled that idea to go off in her head, and she's kind of like, oh, I'd like to do this, and then like adding on like, oh, and
great. What idea is that for you? So specify that for me and use that every time, or pick some variation, decide ahead of time before the song starts. When that bell tone, if it's somebody playing, if it's recording, whatever it is, associate the musical element with the dramatic beat, which is to say, what do you want to use in this moment?
In my life, or the...
Yeah, right now. Like, okay. What do you want to use? What do you want to plant for yourself? Like little breadcrumbs in your mind, so that when you hear that bell tone, what do you think of is like, boom, travel, or boom, sitting together reading a book, or boom, the face. Maybe it's just the physical presence of something, right? So I want you to identify, you don't have to tell me or us, but having a really clear indication of like, again, what it's an inciting moment that gets you, it's an idea, you're right. So whatever that idea is, and it can change, but having that set in your mind ahead of time means that when we hear that, we can literally see you call that dramatic moment or that example up, and then you're off and running into the song, right? So you're connecting the material to the musical, the nonverbal stuff, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And it can, like I said, it can change. You can take a different example and use it different times. I think that the tendency that we have is to gesture when we're describing things, right? Because we do it in real life. We just use our hands, we gesticulate all the time. I think that it's so much more powerful if you limit yourself to the really choice moments, which is to say, you have to earn our trust with the story you're telling us before you can necessarily gesture, because gesturing will only enhance what you're singing to me. It doesn't actually replace the lyrics. So I think using the eyes and finding focal points, which is to say, give me the first few lines of the song.
I'd like to swim in a clear blue stream where the water is icy cold.
Great, that's one. Go na. What's the second?
Then go to town in a golden gown and have my fortune told.
Great, so throw the lake somewhere, throw the fortune in the town. Maybe they're sort of in the same peripheral vision to you. Mm-hmm. But when that bell tone goes off, boom, there it is. Oh my gosh. And stay there and just sing to that spot. Channel the river. How cold is it? Are parts of you numb right now because it's so, right? So live in that moment and then trace for us when you then get to the town, right? But it's all in that really small area that you're covering. You're not shifting, right, around. Keep going for me.
Just once before I'm old.
Uh-huh.
I'd like to be not evil, but a little worldly wise.
Oh, okay, great. So maybe those are two phrases connected together. Just once before I'm old, I'd like to be this, right? The phrase is sung in two different, but it's actually one thought, right? Different spot. Maybe you address us directly there, right? But it's just picking the moments of where you're placing these ideas, right? So when you talk about running wild and free and mad, and the tempo actually starts to get faster, maybe then it encourages you to use something in your physical body to inhabit that faster tempo. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because it's such a descriptive song, but it's also it's an I want song. I desire to have these things and to do these things and to grow up and to be, right, do all these things with this person, right? So the more specific that you can lay those out for us in where you focus your attention and your energy, I think will be a much stronger position for you to start from, right?
Mm-hmm.
What else was I? Oh, yes. When it, read for me from where it picks up. Tempo. Yes.
Okay. I'd like to dance till 2 o'clock or sometimes dance till dawn. Or if the band could stand it, just go on and on and on. Just once, just once, just once before I'm old.
Great. So repetition is also, we rely on it heavily in musical theater, right? Just once, just once, just once before, and at the end you do it again, right? Much more, right? As a repetition. So those also have to have really specific ideas, really concrete ideas about them, right? Which is to say, read it again for me a couple lines back.
I'd like to be not evil, but a little worldly wise, to be the kind of girl designed to be kissed upon the eyes. I'd like to dance till 2 o'clock or sometimes dance till dawn, or if the band could stand it, just go on and on and
This is great. This is great, Samantha, because you're actually spitballing here, which is to say you're not speaking in tempo. You're speaking as if you're just reading to me, right? It's as if you were thinking of these things also off the cuff, right? We could do this and it might be this. So having that quality in how you deliver the song is all the more effervescent and real for us to then watch you literally making these things, these ideas in real time, right? But the real artistry is actually that you have these little breadcrumbs, as like I was saying before, like what is that inciting moment for you that gives you that impetus to start singing, right? So it feels to us like a totally natural thing, but yet to you, you've placed that dramatic beat every time. Yeah? Will you sing just the very beginning for me? All right, soon as waving me off. Soon, can we sing from the very beginning? Just like those first 16 bars? Yeah, awesome. Okay.
I'd like to swim in a clear blue stream where the water is icy cold. Then go to town in a golden gown and have my fortune told. Just once, just once, just once before I'm old. I'd like to be not evil, but a little worldly wise, to be the kind of girl designed to be kissed upon the eyes. I'd like to dance till 2 o'clock or sometimes dance till dawn. Or if the band could stand it, just go on and on and on. Just once, before the chance is gone.
Yeah. That's great. Do you feel any different? Do you feel a difference?
Yes, definitely. It felt a lot more free. I was imagining like someone, like I was pursuing like my like greatest like wishes, but there was also like someone that I didn't know yet that was in the distance, but that was like inviting. And I think
absolutely.
That really helps.
And we saw all of that, right? It's so much more powerful when we watch you figure those things out in your own head without gesturing, because I don't watch the gesture, right? I just I'm watching you like unpack this stuff. It's fascinating and it's powerful. So anyway, sorry, now I know we're gonna run way over, but this is great. Great job, Samantha.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, have a good one.
You too.
Wonderful. Thank you, Samantha. Wonderful job. That was great. What a nice start to the show here. Well, our next singer, I hope, is ready to go, so we will welcome her on.
Hello, my name is Olivia Bentley, and today I will be singing I Don't Know How to Love Him from Jesus Christ Superstar. I don't know how to love him, what to do, how to move him. I've been changed, yes, really changed. In these past few days, when I see myself, I seem like someone else. I don't know how to take this. I don't see why he moves me. He's a man. He's just a man. And I've had so many men before in very many ways. He's just one more. Should I bring him down? Should I scream and shout? Should I speak of love? Let my feelings out. I never thought I'd come to this. What's it all about? Don't you think it's rather funny? I should be in this position. I'm the one who's always been so calm, so cool, no lover's fool, running every show. He scares me so. I never thought I'd come to this. What's it all about? Yet, if he said he loved me, I'd be lost, I'd be frightened. I couldn't cope, just couldn't cope. I'd turn my head, I'd back away. I wouldn't want to know. He scares me so. I want him so. I love him so.
Yeah. Great job.
Thank you.
Great job. Hang on, let me move my window around so I can see you better. There we go. So Olivia, yeah, great job. You sound great on this. Did you pick this song out, or is this an old song, a new song? Give me the backstory.
I've been working on this song for about a year or so.
Okay.
And so I did pick it, but I've had a little bit of backstory with it.
Cool. Why did you pick this?
I think this song is a challenge because it shows so much vulnerability. And I also feel comfortable about it in my voice. And yeah, I feel confident in it at this point in my life.
Gotcha. when you said that the vulnerability of the lyric, you mean of the song itself?
Yes. And the character.
Okay. In what way?
I view this song as her processing. And so it's a really personal moment. And so to get to share that with an audience, I think is really powerful. And to convey that, you know, the words that are coming from this character as her thought process. I hope that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. So what is that thought process?
It's hard because I think she starts not even knowing what to say, which is why she says, I don't know how to love him. And then I think it moves on of this situation is scaring me to then, okay, but I actually do love this person. And so it kind of comes full circle in that sense.
Okay. So do you, in your idea or your mind, is the resolution in this song? Or is she still left, are we still left with, I don't know what to do about this situation?
I think it's a mixture of both, because I think she still doesn't quite know what to do externally about the situation, but she has made up her mind, no, I do love this person. And so I need to figure out what to do, but I don't have all the answers quite yet. But in terms of that emotional arc, I think she has decided, I do love this person.
And I think it's the second verse when she starts out with the question, right? If he, I
don't know how to take this.
Oh yes, that's what it is. I don't know how to take. It's interesting because the language that Tim Rice wrote is vague enough that lets you sort of play with it how you will. But it's also under the context of the show, which is to say Mary Magdalene and Jesus in Jesus Christ Superstar, right? It offers us this glimpse into her, perhaps her true unspoken feelings, or just this melange of feelings that she's not even sure what they are yet, which is to your point, right? She leads, the first line is, I don't know how to love him, right? So what happens right before this? And it gets you into that place, right? Is there does he say something? What is the springboard? Again, same question I asked with Samantha. Like, what is that inciting incident, right? That drops you into the character, that drops you into the situation, right?
In the versions that I'm most familiar with, I think there's a reprise of Everything's All Right. And so she kind of sings that a little bit, and then it moves and people leave the stage and she's the only one left. And then it's her own thinking.
Oh, that's juicy. Why is that? Why do I say that?
Well, I think it's juicy because she's reassuring everybody else. And then all of a sudden she's by herself. And it's like, okay, but everything's not all right because I don't know what I'm doing.
Absolutely. And yes. And whether or not you could personally, have experienced that, we can all, I think, experience the idea of like self-placation, right? Or placating others, right? And when actually it's not, the situation is actually not that, right? Because, and even I don't know what I'm feeling right now in that moment, right? So to sort of bare the soul in this song at that moment, to juxtapose that, right, is a really strong beat, right? So I think you need to also set that up for yourself in a similar fashion, which is to say, like, you have a little bit of intro there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when we have things like intros, or we have like the interlude that happens in the cut you do, right? There's also, it's you're not singing, but there's still story being told there, right? So maybe it's you chewing on or thinking about the last thing you just sang, right? And how that manifests, because it's still, right, you're still processing, even though you're not singing. So make sure that you're still always aware that that you're connecting the thought process, even though you're not necessarily singing about it.
Right.
Yeah. The one thing I wanted to mention to you, I call it the bridge. It's when she goes, or it's like the B section. Sorry, my piano's out of tune. Right, that bridge section, and there's that the line rises before the release. I never thought I'd come to this. Right. I just need you to actually ground yourself specifically in that moment. Right, because your support is there, but I see the rest of your body is not, because I can see you teetering just slightly, and it's actually the opposite, which is to say the energy shoots down through the floor. As it's the opposite, as the vocal rises, the pressure that you're planting yourself on that earth gets stronger and stronger, right? So that the release, what's it all about? Right? That's the release of all this. So it's that tension that builds, right? So don't change what you're doing vocally and support-wise, but just physically, like in your own physical proximity, like keep yourself grounded and let that energy shoot down through your ankles and your heels, right? Even bending your knees, like, we see people do this all the time, and we think it's just, they're looking cool by bending down for that note, but there's actually some physiology that happens, which is to say it connects you to the earth, that allows you to live in those moments a little more deeply. So I would encourage you to also think about that in those two sections. Excuse me, in those two sections. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go from the top, and maybe we'll just do like the first half.
Sure.
Okay. And set that up for me, right? Everything is all right. Everything is all right. Everything is all right. I'm telling myself this, everything is all right. It's going to be okay. It's going to, right? But it's not. And that shift between that moment and when the song starts is a really strong, deliberate place.
Don't know how to love him, what to do, how to move him. I've been changed, yes, really changed. In these past few days, when I see myself, I seem like someone else. I don't know how to take this. I don't see why he moves me. He's a man. He's just a man. And I've had so many men before, in very many ways. He's just one more. Should I bring him down? Should I scream and shout? Should I speak of love? Let my feelings out. I never thought I'd come to this. What's it all about? Don't you think it's rather funny? I should be in this position. I'm the one who's always been so calm, so cool, no lover's fool, running every show. He scares me so.
If he said he loved me, I'd be lost, I'd be frightened. I couldn't cope, just couldn't cope. I turned my head, I'd back away. I wouldn't want to know. He scares me so, I want him so, I love him so.
That's great. How was that?
It felt a lot more grounded. Sorry, you said just part of the song and then I did the whole thing.
No, because you were in a moment. I was not going to stop that moment. The other thing I was going to say just real quick to you, I thought it'd never come to this, right? Just modify the sentence structure or the vowels. So it's THOD, like thawed.
Mm-hmm.
And then put the I of I'd on the D. So it's thawed-eyed.
Thawed-eyed. Okay.
Yeah. And so that when you pop up and you do the alternate, I never thought you sort of back phrase a little bit there.
Okay.
Pushing all the consonants together and getting to the vowels sooner as opposed to trying to wrangle through the I. Just smash them all together.
Okay.
I never thought THODI. Yeah. Will you just sing it for me? Just lay it on us.
I never thought I'd come to this.
Yeah, cool. Can I get a little more TH? Thought-eyed.
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 Thought-eyed. I never thought I'd come to this.
That's great. Now give me a little accent on the I. So give me a little push of articulation on the die. Thought-eyed. So you're actually emphasizing the riff, right?
I never thought I'd come to this.
Yep. There you go.
Yay.
Cool. Can you keep the vibrato out until the end? Thought I'd come to this. Just one more. Last one.
Thought I'd come to this.
Yeah. Yeah. But connect those consonants for sure to get you out and into the vowel. And yeah, just for me, just for my taste, I'd love to have the vibrato at the end as opposed to in the riff itself. Okay. But otherwise, great job, Olivia.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you, Olivia. Yay, this is so much fun. Great comments, Zachary. Thank you. All right, so on to our next singer. I think we have Cecilia next. There she is.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Cecilia Lewis, and today I'll be singing Everything I Know from In the Heights. In this album, there's a picture of the ladies at Daniela's. You can tell it's from the 80s by the volume of their hair. There's Usnavi, just a baby, 87, Halloween. If it happened on this block, Abuela was there. Every afternoon I came, she made sure I did my homework. She could barely write her name, but even so, she would stare at the paper and tell me, bueno, let's review. Why don't you tell me everything you know? In this album, there's a picture of Abuela in Havana. She is holding a ragdoll, unsmiling, black and white. I what she's thinking? Does she know that she'll be leaving for the city on a cold, dark night? And on the day they ran, did she dream of and the summer? Did her mother have a plan, or did they just go? Did somebody sit her down and say, Claudia, get ready to leave behind everything you know, everything I know. What do I know? In this folder, there's a picture from my high school graduation with a program mint condition and a star beside my name. There's a picture of my parents as I left for California. She saved everything we gave her, every little scrap of paper. All our lives are in these boxes, while the woman who held us is gone. But we go on, we grow so tight. Abuela, if you're up there, I'll make you proud of everything I know. Thank you for everything I know.
What? That was great, Cecilia.
Thank you.
That was awesome. This whole show has a special, I'm biased. It's such a tender,
Yes.
but also a powerful moment. So talk to me about this song.
Yeah.
About everything I know. What are we talking about here?
Yeah. So Nina lives in Washington Heights. She went to college. She studied and worked so hard to get into college. And she was the one who made it out. She was the one who made it. And she comes back and has to tell her family that she is deciding to drop out of college. I know I'm telling you this, and I know you know all this, but she, at this point, has come back, already told her family, and has gone through everything. And Abuela, who is kind of this motherly figure of everyone in Washington Heights, passes away. And she is sitting there with Usnavi and going through all of the folders and the pictures and everything that Abuela has kept as this storyteller and just kind of guardian of everyone around her. And so right now she's sifting through these pictures and remembering and remembering the ways in which Abuela had been there for her and helped her study, regardless of the fact that she didn't even speak English, and that she struggled with that. And so it's a moment of grieving and reflection. And then also Nina then moving forward and deciding to accept her family's help and to go back to school. And that's where we're at right now is reflection and gratitude and remembering someone that was so important, not only to Nina, but to the entire community.
So one word that describes the song or sums up the idea of the moment. What's one word that you would choose?
I think one word, I think gratitude is probably the word that I would choose. Yeah, gratitude.
Nina's gratitude?
Yes, I think Nina going through this loss was, she had already lost college. She already lost this dream that she had worked so hard for, and then had to come back and tell everyone that like I couldn't do it, and that was so encompassing of her life and who she was and her identity. And then on top of that, coming back and losing Abuela, I think that losing Abuela was like the moment where everything else that she thought was, you know, difficult and was going through is still very much so, but this kind of took forward, or took the forefront for that.
Sure.
So I think it is, I guess, gratitude, and I think more so just reflection on life. And it's this process of grieving, of feeling, you know, so empty and sad, and also so thankful for what was.
So what do we learn about Nina? How has she changed over the course of this song? Because like there's definitely something changes in her character arc and her story during this song. So what is it that, how does she change by the end of this? What is different about her?
Yeah, I think at the end of it, she becomes driven, and I think she finds purpose again, and this like motivation, and so much of that is fueled from what she has what she needed to do was to spend the time reflecting with Abuela and all her pictures and the life that was there, and seeing all that, reliving all of that. There was this switch of like, she saved everything. Everything is here. She was there always. And now like, I need to go and do what she would want me to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so retracing one's history, right? Even if she's perhaps is not blood to Nina, she might as well have been in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so to go back in that moment of Nina completely lost, right? It's just someone who has it all figured out, who got straight A's, who was who was destined perhaps by even her own, no more than herself in her own mind, but then comes back and is lost, right? And has to find her way again through retracing the support and love of her community, of her family, right? Because then what happens right after this scene? What's the next thing that happens in the show? She sings this powerful song and realizes that, like, what does she have to do?
She has to go back to school.
Yeah. So the very next thing that happens is like her parents walk out and see her on the stoop with Usnavi, and she's like, "Mom and Dad, look, I haven't been straight with you guys for a while now, but like, I've grown up.
Yes.
I like, this is a new chapter, right?" So metaphorically, like, Nina is actually now turning to the next chapter of her life, of her empowered state. But the metaphor is actually us tracking through Nina as a kid with Usnavi, right? Digging out all this old crap that actually was exactly what she needed in this moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Great. I think that I mentioned this to Sam, and because the song is not like Superstar, which is to say sort of generalized lyrics that can sort of, right? This is a really specific driven narrative, right? So because she's actually looking at photographs, like that's the setup. They're looking at these things. And so, how do we then replicate that same idea or that same energy if in you standing right in, like, how do we connect those things, right? How do you place those ideas, those photographs, or those memories, and you stay with them? Because every time you track somewhere else, it tells me that you're going to shift storyline, but you actually aren't. It's all the same thought, and you're just laying out at the beginning anyway, right? So again, I think of a song like this, you can approach it like a lullaby. Like if you were singing to a little child and you had the album, right? And you're actually talking through this with them, approach it the same way with us.
Okay.
Drop it out there, throw it out there, stick with it, right, with that focal point, and then just tell the story.
Yeah.
Because you know, again, like our inclination is that we have to tell the story physically, and oftentimes we don't. Like really great material just does 90% of the work for you.
Yeah.
You know, and you learn the notes, you learn the rhythms, you do all the homework behind it, right? Which you obviously have done, but it's also just being able to be still and let go.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Oh, Soon is not waving me off again. Cecilia, you did a great job.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful, Cecilia. Thank you so much. What a pleasure to live with that show for as long as you have. Really beautiful music. So lovely, lovely. Okay, our final singer is in the wings, and they are changing their screen name because they're sharing a camera. So we'll welcome. Oh, there she is. Okay, take it away.
Awesome. Can you hear me? Cool. Awesome. Hi, my name is Morgan Roberts, and this is The Beauty Is from The Light in the Piazza. These are very popular in Italy. It's the land of naked marble boys. Something we don't see a lot in Winston-Salem. That's the land of corduroys. I'm just someone in an old museum, far away from home as someone can go. But the beauty is I still meet people I know. Hello! This is wanting something. This is reaching for it. This is wishing that a moment would arise. This is taking chances. This is almost touching what the beauty is. I don't understand a word they're saying. I'm as different here as different can be. But the beauty is I still meet people like me. Everyone's a mother here in Italy. Everyone's a father or a son. I think if I had a child, I would take such care of her. Then I wouldn't feel like one. I've hardly met a single soul, but I am not alone. I feel known. This is wanting something. This is praying for it. This is wishing that a moment would arise. This is taking chances. This is wondering when I'll see that boy again. I've got a feeling he's just someone too. And the beauty is when you realize someone could be looking for a someone like you.
Yeah, great job, Morgan. Great job. So same question. Did you pick this song or was the song picked for you?
Half and half. My friend mentioned it and I was like, oh, that would be good. And then I brought it to my voice teacher and we've been working on it. It's relatively a new piece that I've been working on. So.
Awesome. Awesome. And why do you love it?
I think I really like I like how it feels in my voice. I always like kind of like lighter soprano when it's integrated into like musical theater. And I also really love the character. I think that she's got a good heart.
Okay. Why else do you love, what is it about Clara that, is it just her benevolence as a person?
Yeah, I think that the kind of juxtaposition of her being younger and having this accident that affects her and makes her act younger than her age, and that being like a reason why other people know more. I love that is kind of the reason that she knows the most about love.
Interesting. And so how does that fit into the show context? Because you're right. I think you're absolutely right. So then when we lay the song into the context of the show, where does the song happen, and how does it happen?
Yeah, so it happens right after she's in a museum, and so she's checking out the Marble Boys, and it's happens right after she meets Fabrizio. And I think her hat blows in the wind, and it's a very happenstance, like they meet, and it's like they are both very very young and naive, and they fall immediately in love, and yeah, so that's kind of the moment for.
Yeah, it feels very, very much like perhaps Louisa.
Yes,
from Sam, right?
Yeah,
right, exactly right. The opening scene, like they meet, the hat, the initial connection, right? But then that's it. They go to the museum, and this she can't get this boy out of her head, right? She's the beauty, the physical bright beauty she's seen represented in artwork, perhaps, or in sculpture, but then like what is the internal, what is the physiological beauty that she's feeling right now in that moment, right? And she even references him, specifically that boy again, right? So it's and the song tracks that way. Like the accompaniment, right, has the rate at which things are happening, notes are happening, is juxtaposed between the softer, more lyrical, tender moments, right? And if you look, the lyric that happens during those moments is oftentimes the most truthful place that Clara lives, right? And the most perhaps internal, whereas everything else is much more like, here's this, I'm looking at this, right? And so being able to, again, connect those points for us, or those moments together for us, right? But then also to personalize this, right? So to be able to say that, like, either this has happened to you, perhaps, or just the idea of something really cool happens, like really exciting, not sure, like, whatever, you see a new something, you can fill that in, right? And you can't get it out of your head. It's so infectious in a great way that, like, I'm here doing these things, except this is really what I'm thinking about. And so being able to then, again, lean into those moments a little more for us, right? Like, what are the lyrics when it in the B section when it slows down?
This is it. One of the this is wanting something. This is
Start from the beginning. So these are very popular in Italy. It's done like in Marble Boys.
Yeah. Something we don't see a lot in Winston-Salem.
Land of Corduroys. It's right here.
Oh yeah. I'm just a someone in an old museum, far away from home as someone can go. But the beauty is I still meet people that I know. So many people I know.
Right. And the connection of, again, across continents to the human connection, right? Outside of all these other, right, situational things.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So again, I'll bring up focus again, because I do track, and I'm there with you, watching you experience this museum and seeing these things. But those moments where that lyric turns, we'll say it turns inward, perhaps into the inner desires, as opposed to you experiencing the world around you, being able to also physically inhabit that space for us, and just be as still is all you need, right? To do that, to be in that moment. Adam Gettle is not easy to sing, as you probably know. So, and I know, and it's obviously a new song for you. So kudos for like jumping in and singing right now. This is great. With a new song. Just go back and check. There are some like notes in intervallic relationships that, again, are just super dependent upon the chord structure beneath you, right? Which is multi-layered, right? It's not really, you know, a Gershwin or a Porter tune, right? There's lots of other colors happening, so it really forces you to then be on your note game, right? The other thing I want to say too, at the very end, there's a moment that happens. When the lyric goes all the way up, someone could be looking for a someone like me, right? And again, the rate of like information is much slower. So don't give it away.
Yeah.
Don't give it away to us, right? Even though you're in this place, like this sort of release, right? Someone could be looking for a someone like me, right? Don't give it to us, and don't you sort of beat yourself to the punch dramatically there.
Okay.
With the expression and like the focus shifts. So just be sure that, like, again, live in that moment. Don't be afraid to like stay there, and then let, like, you know the lyrics, you know what's going on. Don't hang on to those. Allow yourself to step away and just live in the experience of what's happening in those words, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But great job, Morgan.
Thank you.
Yeah, keep singing this. This is a great song on you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you to our singers. Really great work, and so many great comments. Thank you so much, Zachary. I wonder if you could talk to us a little bit about this last song. Made me think about this. It's not your traditional musical theater song. It's so, the texture's so heavy in the orchestra, and it's not quite as transparent as some musical theater sounds that we're used to hearing. What is the process that you would like to see singers undergo when they learn a new song?
In terms of a dramatic workflow?
Yeah, or just like the process. So I guess that was a loaded question, and I kind of have a point
Sure.
of asking it, and that is, as a teacher, and when I work with singers that are working on musical theater rep, I find that often the first thing they do is listen to the soundtrack, instead of really digging into the score. Now, like we said kind of at the beginning of this class, sometimes the score is a sketch of what really happens in performance. So, I mean, is that a good thing to do? I mean, to listen to the soundtrack and kind of get the established performance history of the song, or should we dig into the text first, as you've been working so heavily on tonight, or should we look at the notes? How should we prioritize that work?
Sure. I think that it's a slippery slope to part one of your question, right? Should we even do this? Go down that hole of referencing recordings, and it's a slippery slope because once you hear something really, really great, then well, of course you want to do that too. So I think it's absolutely, and I do this all the time in my own work. I listen to things to get ideas because that's how, we continue to think creatively. So I think that I don't think it's a problem at all, as long as, with the caveat being, if it works for you, right? Sometimes people do alternate melodies or riffs that are not in your range. So again, knowing where you are in that specific moment in time and what you're capable of, what you're working on to get better at, it might not be an even one-to-one match. So it's only if it helps you or gives you perhaps some more ideas about the song, I would say. But in terms of process, I think, to me, with musical theater, especially, like, or even, modern music, like if the text and the sentimentality or the connection to that material isn't understood on some fundamental level, then we can learn all the notes and the rhythms, and we can then replicate that in a performance situation, but we truly don't really understand then the deeper meanings of those lyrics at play. There's so much, great music, regardless of genre, like a melody and a lyric, if it's done really well, it, like I said, a lot of times tonight, it sells itself. You don't have to do anything except just get out of the way sometimes of the song. And so I think having the connection to the material and the story of what the song is talking about first is really important. And then I think we go back and do the homework, right? The notes, the rhythms, the phrasing, right? All the pedagogical things that we would incorporate traditionally, which is to say, get all the homework done. And so that you can then, you're not dependent on it. You're not thinking about that high note coming up in a couple of bars and, oh, I've been cracking lately, so I hope I don't crack. We're already in our heads, we've completely lost the path. So being able to do the homework first, I think, lets you put it up on a shelf. I'm not thinking about that. I'm diving deeper now into what am I actually singing about? And whether we use the context of the show that it's from, or whether we reinvent our own story about, this love song between two young people, as Sam was singing, and we sort of replace or suppose our own experiences, is just that's what I want to watch all day. I think we all want to watch that all day, because then we're watching someone living an experience and not just singing or sort of replicating perhaps what they heard on Spotify.
That's great. Thank you. That's a great answer. We have a question waiting here in the Q&A, and this is from Luke Wenceslaw, one of our BFA musical theater students here at PLU. He says, what do you think is the essence of Moulin Rouge, and what should one really understand when performing it?
What is the essence of Moulin Rouge, the show, I guess?
I guess so, yeah. I guess the implication is it's maybe slightly problematic for him, and he's trying to sort through what to make.
I mean, to me, if I had to sum up Moulin Rouge in one word, it's tolerance, or it's acceptance, right? There are other themes, obviously, and sort of subplots that are around that, but I think, to me, the story of Moulin Rouge, the musical, which is much more plot driven, I think, than the movie is about acceptance, and is about tolerance, not so much about, perhaps the show or the love stories or the money making characters. Right.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I have a question. I've been thinking about this episode of This American Life, and maybe you know where I'm going with this if you know This American Life, but there's an episode of This American Life that focuses on the orchestra pit of Phantom of the Opera. And it's all about the rigors of playing the same show over and over and over again. It's a great episode. If you haven't heard it, you really should. It's of course right up your alley.
Okay.
As someone who's lived this life. So can you talk to us a little bit about the rigors of that lifestyle, performing the same show night after night? What does that entail? What are the challenges?
Sure. I could speak to the musical portion of that, because I didn't do any as an actor, right? That's a different experience, right? If you're an actor in a show, on a long running show perhaps, or you're doing a tour, let's say, and you're over a year or something, that's a different kind of experience perhaps than my experience. But as a musician, as an MD, and as a conductor for long running stuff, there are certainly similarities. I mean, anything that we do over and over is just going to feel a little bit like punching a time clock, especially when, if you don't punch your clock, then you get fired because it is a job, or you don't show up, so there are still some rules of the world that apply regardless of what you're doing in the show. But, I would be lying if I said that never happened. I always felt inspired every night, because that is not the truth. Right. Because we get sick, and because we don't get enough sleep sometimes, or because we have a hard conversation with someone right before the show opens up, or so, and those things you just have to learn to take and think about after the show is over. There's something about, I learned that life early on with, with In the Heights as a long running show, is sort of the amount of work to do meant that when the curtain went up or when Places was called, there could have been a whole other situation that had happened in life prior to that. But right now the attention had to be with the show, with the actors, with the musicians. And so I needed to check that at the door, right? Mm-hmm. And to be able to separate these pieces of my life, because it wasn't, it's not fair to everyone that I'm working with, if I'm bringing that piece or that baggage into how I'm performing and how I'm then, communicating with other people during a show and during the musical. So it is tough. But, the 30,000 foot view, I think, with all of this is, musical theater is, whether it's Broadway or it's touring or it's cruise ships or it's regional theater, right? There's so many different places that you can be you, right? And be a successful you. But it's also a really volatile business to be in. And that's, COVID notwithstanding, it's shows come and go, shows close, or maybe they run, or, maybe you get injured and you have to sit out, or so it's stepping back from all of that and just recognizing and being grateful for every opportunity that you have, was one way that I tended to get over that funk in those sort of darker moments, right? Like, well, let's evaluate what's going on here. Actually, I'm sitting in a Broadway pit with amazing musicians and these killer actors, and there's a screaming crowd behind me that have not seen this show before. So who am I to poo-poo on their experience, and just being able to sort of step back from whatever I was sitting in that moment and then realize that, oh, well, it is just a Tuesday night in March, except that it's a Tuesday night in March for a ton of people who have never seen this, and they're about to have this incredible experience. So if we don't give them the best and the everything, then I'm not doing my job at the end of the day.
Right. Yeah, it's about being a professional. Absolutely. That's great answer. What are some important skills? Zachary Kellogg, who music directs a lot of shows here at PLU in our theater department, wants to know, what are some important skills to be a successful music director for musical theater, in your opinion?
I think you need to have chops, regardless of what those musical chops are. Most people come from a piano background, so or some sort of a piano keyboard background. There are MDs that come from vocal backgrounds, but their piano proficiency skills are at a much higher level, perhaps, than someone than a vocalist who doesn't play piano, right? There are MDs who play guitar primarily, who MD from with guitar, but they also have the chops. So I think that number one is, like, you have to have a high degree of pedagogical foundation, right? From the start. And then sort of all the other things that go in with that, right? So being able to sight read is really important, right? Whether it's an audition or whether you're trying out new material on an actor, being able to transpose is a really great, not required, I would say, but certainly something that you can work on, just like sight reading. It's a skill that you can, like a muscle that you can develop, and being able to do that only opens up ways to think about music and ways to collaborate with other people. So chops, definitely number one. I think number two, you need to be a great communicator and a great educator, right? And music director tends to wear a lot of different hats, right? I may be in an audition in the morning to cast a new role, and so I'm sort of playing that part in casting, but then I have to go to a rehearsal to teach a new understudy some music, but then I'm also to go talk to musicians and subs and give them notes about music, right? So it's a lot of hats, and being able to be, I think, organized with your life and with your thoughts, but also in your direction to people, right? So I can have a conversation and talk about, guitar pickups to a guitar player and why this is not working and why this is working, and then turn around and talk to a vocalist about a vowel modification that might help her in this particular moment. So being able to sort of wear the hats, but also then to understand, you know, the vocabulary and the cultures that surround these different areas that are all coming together at the same time to create a musical, right? And obviously we all have different skill sets more than others. So, you know, you may feel more at home with something, you know, than the pit than perhaps with singers, right? So that should, I think, then tell you, all right, I need to sort of start to focus and sharpen up these skills in this area so that I can be informed when I go to that conversation at the table, you know? So yeah, that's number 2, being able to sort of wear the hats, but also be able to understand the conversation that's happening in those circles and to be able to make educated decisions about that. And then you just got to be nice. You just got to be a nice person, you know, online and offline. So much everything is online now, and like that stuff, it sticks with you. It creates an online version of you that doesn't really go away. And so being nice online and being nice offline, being nice to people in general, being sympathetic with situations and just understanding, because at the end of the day, it's just we're just doing musicals, you guys. This is not we're not curing cancer. We're changing lives in a different way. And so again, just being humble about it, which is in as much to say being a nice person and showing up on time, you know, matters as much as, you know, the other stuff, I personally think.
Yeah. A lot of moving parts, and obviously you've had a lot of experiences that have informed your career, and we're so fortunate to benefit from your experiences tonight, and so we really appreciate it. And huge thanks to our singers who are braving the Zoom universe and playing tracks on a speaker instead of having a live pianist there, as I'm sure you've had to deal with. And so anyway, we've been making the most of things by having wonderful guests like you, Zachary, and so we really are so thankful to have you with us tonight. And yeah, hope you get to see LA and California at some point. With things open back up.
I think so. I think we're all sensing that things are moving in the right direction. So we're crossing our fingers.
Great.
But thank you very much. And to Morgan, Olivia, and Samantha, and Cecilia, thank you all so much for coming out and singing for us. It was a treat. And yeah, thanks to Soon, Dr. Brown. And I think Soon has my information. You can also look it up on the UCA website. So please feel free to reach out to me via email if you have questions or thoughts. I'm easy to get a hold of, and would welcome your thoughts and musings.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. We'll invite our singers to turn their cameras on just to wave goodbye, and we'll like to thank our audience for joining us this evening. Thank you, everyone, and thanks for supporting our singers with all your great comments in the chat. There they all are. That's great. Awesome. Thank you all, and we'll see you at our next masterclass here from LA, from Tacoma, and various dorm rooms and apartments near you. Okay. Good night. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you again. Good night, y'all.